Hello, it's Mr. Eason again, and this is homework help for division. There isn't a particular section that we're doing this with. This is just a division strategy that I've changed a little bit since I taught this last year. I really like this strategy because it's going to be really easy for when the time comes for students who learn long division. It's very similar. I know that the 5th grade is using this strategy as well. And so if they learn it now, they will be ahead of the game when they get to 5th grade and they start doing division with 2-digit divisors instead of 1-digit divisors. So let's go ahead and get started with this. I have this problem down twice, and the reason for that is because you can do this, you can solve this problem in a lot of different ways. That's the benefit of this strategy, is that there's no one singular way to come around to the right answer. There are a couple different ways. And we are going to use multiplication in order to help us solve division because multiplication is the opposite of division. So, the first thing I need to do is I need to pick a 4 multiplication fact that I think is going to get me kind of close to 488. And to tell the students when they're doing 3-digit numbers to always check times 100 first. In this case, if I did 4 times 100, I'm going to get 400, and that's going to get me pretty close. So the first thing that I'm going to write down on the right side of this line is I'm going to write 100 times 4. And then I'm going to solve that. 100 times 4 is 400. And so under this 488, I'm going to subtract off 400, which is going to leave me with 88 left. So now I need to pick another 4 fact that I could use. Here's where it comes in handy to try different things and to be able to do it more than one way. So let's say that I don't know much about multiplication, but I do know my 10 times 4. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do 10 times 4, which is 40. And if I subtract that off, I'm left with 48. And I could subtract off another 10 times 4. So I'm going to go ahead and write 10 times 4 again. I'm going to subtract off 40 again. And I'm going to have 8 left. And then, do I know a 4 fact that equals 8? Yes, I know 2 times 4 equals 8. So if I subtract that, I end up having 0 left. Now where my answer comes in here is I need to add up the non-4 factors, which means the numbers either in the beginning and the first factor, or if I had them switched up and I did 4 times 100, 4 times 10, 4 times 10, and 4 times 2, I need to add up the numbers on the right. Whichever ones are not 4 is what I need to add up. So in this case, I need to add up 100 plus 10 plus 10 plus 2, and that is 122. And so my answer to this equation is 122. Now, the nice thing is, that's 4 equations that I had to solve. Perhaps I wanted to solve that a little quicker. Okay, so I will probably still be doing 100 times 4, because that's a good way to start. But this time I'm going to write it differently. I'm going to write 4 times 100. Just to show you that it really doesn't matter how you write it, as long as you're consistent. 4 times 100 is still 400. So I'll subtract that off. I'm left with 88. Now maybe your student knows that if 4 times 10 is 40, then 4 times 20 would be 80. So I'm going to go ahead and this time I'm going to do 4 times 20, which is going to get me 80 right away. If I subtract that off, I have 8 left. And all I need now is a 4 times 2, which is 8. And I subtract that off and I have 0 remaining. So now again, I need to look at the numbers that are not in the 4 place. So this time I had my 4s right here at first. So I want to be looking at these numbers right through here, that second set of numbers. So let me go ahead and let's circle that through. 120 and 2. And again, that adds up to 122, so my answer is 122. And that's the way that I go about solving this. So now we're going to solve 2 more equations just to get a little bit more practice here. And so the first one is 324 divided by 2. If we're dividing by 2, that means we need 2 multiplication facts to help us get towards the right answer. So again, if we start with trying times 100, 2 times 100 will work in this case. So we will write 100 times 2. That is going to be 200. If I subtract that off, I have 124 remaining. And here I could try whatever I wanted to try. If I wanted to do 10 times 2 is 20. I could subtract off 20 a whole bunch of times and eventually get down to close to the right answer. If I'm a little bit more advanced, I could do 50 times 2, which would get me 100, and that would take off 100 pretty quickly. And just for the sake of time, I'm going to do that. 50 times 2, that's 100. So if I subtract that off, I am down to 24 remaining. So maybe I try a 10 times 2, which is 20. I could try a 12 times 2. It really is all up to what you want to try. Because eventually you'll get to the right answer as long as you continue subtracting off 2's. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do 12 times 2, which is 24. If I subtract that off, I have 0 remaining. So I need to look at that non-2 factor, which is 150 and 12. And if I add that up, I get 162. So my answer here is 162. Next one, I have 864 divided by 4. We're going to go ahead and start. And if students want to, they can do 4 times 100. They could also do 4 times 200. I'll do 100 times 4 just because it's always pretty easy to start with a 100 fact. It's something that students can always rely on, and it's okay to continue taking off 400 at a time. It just takes a little longer. So I could do another 400, so I'm going to go ahead and do 100 times 4. Take off another 400. I'm going to be left with 64. So now I'm down to 64 remaining, so I can do some more division. I'm going to have 10 times 4, which is 40. Subtract that off, I have 24 remaining. And if I know a 4 fact that equals 24, I'll be finished. If I don't, I can continue subtracting off some small numbers of 4, like 4 times 2, 4 times 3, maybe even 4 times 5, to continue on. I know that 4 times 6 is going to get me what I want, so I'll write down 6 times 4 is 24. If I subtract that off, I have 0 remaining. And again, I go back to circling that non-4 number. So I've got 100, 110, and 6. If I add those up, that's going to be my answer. So my answer here is 216. And that has been Homework Help for Division. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And I will see you in class tomorrow.